So I can predict a trend, this many people try to go rekindle a relationship and only this much of it works out. So then I go, see, there you go. Those things don't work. But individuals, you have less chances of predicting because when you get down to an individual or two individuals, they're no longer a statistic. Today we're going to talk about reattraction a little bit. Now I'm not going into like the whole get your ex back thing or all that. That's what you're here for. This might help you a little bit, but that's not what we're going to really talk about. Generally speaking, that old tripe is a bad idea. I've had people do it. I've had people do it successfully. Very few of those situations work out because there's usually a reason they broke up. Not saying never, but very few. But we're not going to get into all of that. We're talking more or less like you're texting a girl and then she just sort of drops off, right? Or you met a girl, went on a date or two, or things seem to be going in a direction, and then that's it. It just sort of disappears. But it could be something like, too, you see somebody that you used to date or you used to see, or even a serious relationship, you know, but it's 2 or 3 years later and things have changed. She looks good. Maybe there's some indicators there. Nice running into you, kind of stuff. Maybe like, yeah, give me a call sometime. And then like I'll get these guys who are, oh, I'm really nervous, because I just reconnected with somebody I used to see. Maybe I screwed it up with her, or it just didn't work out. And, I'd really like to try again. Those can work out, actually. It's that happens. And I'm not going to sit here and say, that never works or any of that. It just depends on why, you two stop seeing each other. And it depends on who you both are really at the moment of reconnection. If you're both the same people with the same problems that you were when it didn't work before, well, then there's a reason it didn't work. And, but people do change over time. Sometimes they change for the better. We hope to change for the better. That doesn't always happen, though, if we're not intentional about the change, right? And so there are no hard rules with this. I know that, the dating help and red pill and men's help space wants to put these hard rules on it. There really aren't. Okay. Things work out and sometimes they don't. And it just really depends on the individuals. And you have to decide what's going to work for you. But generally speaking, though, the way that guys go about trying to reattract, they go about it all wrong. And the way of going about it all wrong are two things that I'll see is an overinvestment right from the get-go. All right, that's the one. That's the one thing. Number one is that's normally what happens is there's just an overinvestment. Whatever you had with that person is like no longer. All right, even if you just dated her a few times and then it just whatever happened. You went off to some other girl or she went off to some other dude or whatever happened and nothing happened, right? Whatever that was is no longer a thing. You're starting, this is a brand new thing. We talk in probabilities because guys are stupid. No offense. Me too. Okay. And that we do things that are not good for us and we justify all the reasons why. And so we try to look at like data so that we are less stupid, So when that guy's like, oh, I think I'm going to go try to get my ex back, you can go, no, dummy, that doesn't usually work out well, right? And we can point to statistics or something. But people aren't statistics, though, right? You're just not. We can predict behavior on a larger scale. If I have 1,000,000 people as data points, I can predict, probabilities with human behavior within that test sample, right? If it's a good diverse test sample, I'm going to have more accurate predictions. So I can predict a trend, This many people try to go rekindle a relationship and only this much of it works out. So then I go, see, there you go. Those things don't work. But individuals, you have less chances of predicting because when you get down to an individual or two individuals, they're no longer a statistic and they have a personal background, personal experiences that will weigh into whether or not that situation is going to work. And they may be a statistical anomaly or they may not. And these are things you have to determine. And you have to be basically not dumb about it when you determine that. If it's even a good idea, usually it's not, though. Usually it's just not. But I mean, you want the ability to be able to do it. And it's like, how do you do it? Well, first thing is you can't be over invested. It's faded effect bias. You remember the good stuff more than the bad stuff. It happens a lot. And then you get over invested because your mental framework is in the old relationship and biased towards the good stuff. And that's not, if you start there, you're not going to reattract anybody, probably, especially if she's the one who made the executive decision to leave you. It's probably not going to work. She decided that being with you was no longer good. And you can't now just come into a framework of we were so great and things were great and things were good or things can be so much better, like in this old mental framework. She might not be even a good partner for you at all. She might be a worse partner for you today than she was back then. You don't actually know. And so an overinvestment is usually the biggest killer. And we do that all up here. We play that mind game. We mind F ourselves with that all the time. And so you can't do that. You got to start fresh. And that means a forgiveness of whatever the hell happened before. And that means also an acceptance that this person is going to be different. You're going to see things about them that are the same. There's going to be some feelings that will be familiar, but there's going to be some differences. And you have to just start from a neutral mindset. Okay, when you're back into that reattraction. And this is easy to do if it was someone you went on a few dates with and then just sort of fizzled and then you ran into each other again. If you're with somebody for a long time, it's a lot harder to get into that mindset. All right, because then you have more history, more experiences. The more hung up you are on the situation, right? Because you're hung up on an illusion. And so that's the first thing is just remember, you're hung up on an illusion. So I'm not saying don't reattract somebody. I'm going to tell you how to do it. But this is the start of it. If you're invested in this person, more than just I'm curious, I'm attracted, let's see what happens. If your investment is more than that, it's fantasy. You're in a fantasy world. And this goes for new girls too. Social media nowadays, you guys are easy. You just see a hot picture of a girl. She doesn't seem too trashy, just like she's a great girl. Like you don't know her. She's just on social media. You got to meet, you got to see. When you get into these situations with overinvestment, you guys kill yourself. So that's the first thing. Don't overinvest, be neutral. Now here's the